Coming up on Naperville News 17. A new year means new laws. We'll fill you in. One of the cutest ways to start off the new year, and what's soaring into theaters in the year ahead. Hello everyone, I'm Kim Pierce. Thanks for joining us for this week's Naperville News. A new year means new laws will take effect. Our own Casey Krajewski takes us through some of the more notable changes.
Safety is the standout focus of several new and amended laws in 2019, particularly gun safety and child safety. One new law will require children under 2 to be strapped into a rear-facing car seat when traveling in a vehicle.
The American Academy of Pediatrics has determined that a child that's in a child safety seat facing backwards is actually safer in a crash or an accident because the shell of the seat supports the neck and head of the child better than if the child was facing forward.
The law doesn't apply if the child is over 40 inches tall or heavier than 40 pounds. Another new law requires schools to conduct at least one law enforcement-led drill to address an active shooter situation.
It sounds like we'll still be able to allow the schools to run a drill just like they would a tornado drill or any other type of safety drill. It just specifies that law enforcement will be there to oversee the drill. So I think that's going to be something that we work out on an individual basis with the schools in the future.
Other safety measures will include criminal background checks for carnival workers and a 72-hour waiting period for all firearm purchases.
Basically, that law extends the waiting period for when a firearm is sold, and it also now includes all firearms. The previous law, I believe, did not apply to certain type of weapons like rifles and weapons such as that, but now the new law is going to say that you have to hold the firearm, any firearm that you sell, for 72 hours.
There are a few exceptions to that law, such as if the purchaser is a law enforcement officer or a federally licensed dealer. And while many of these laws amended previously existing laws, there are some brand new ones, such as the Firearms Restraining Order Act.
That allows the petitioner, a family member or law enforcement, if they can show probable cause to a judge that somebody who's in possession or about to take possession of a firearm is either a risk to themselves or somebody else, that judge can now issue the Firearms Restraining Order that prevents that person from being in possession or going out and purchasing said weapons or firearms.
Sun added that this act will give law enforcement more support via a court order to keep guns out of the hands of people who are a danger to themselves or others. For Naperville News 17, I'm Casey Krajewski.
And one last colorful law of note, Illinois hunters will now have the option of wearing blaze pink hunting gear as an alternative to the traditional blaze orange. With the new year also come new tax regulations. Naperville News 17's Blane Irwin has what you need to know.
With 2018 in the books, it's time to start thinking about taxes and how they've changed. A big one is how tax deductions are handled. If you're used to itemized deductions, it may make more sense to switch to the standard deduction.
Standard deduction, however, took a big leap. If you were married filing joint, it basically doubled. Well, it basically doubled for everybody, but we were looking at about $12,000 prior. It's $24,000 now. So that's going to be one major change for people.
There are a number of other changes as well. Any divorces finalized after the start of the new year are subject to a revision that makes alimony paid not tax deductible and alimony received not taxable. Child tax credits are now available for more people, including single parents making up to $200,000 per year and married couples making up to $400,000. And a portion of the $2,000 per child tax credit is refundable.
On a refundable credit, you can actually get more money back from the federal government than necessarily you paid in. And so that could be beneficial for maybe a small business owner who had a very poor year and has a loss flowing through to their return, has a few dollars paid in. Potentially they may be able to get a few dollars back.
But with all these changes, it's important to watch out. A shift in the tax brackets may have reduced how much is being withheld from your paycheck. If you've underwithheld and think you may owe money, you can make an estimated payment.
There's a form 1040 ES, it's a coupon So after you do a calculation, if you believe you're going to owe a certain amount, it's best to fill out one of those coupons, put a check in the mail, make sure you look at the booklet so that you send it to the right place. And that way, at the very least, you'll avoid interest.
Of course, if you overpay, you'll get a refund. Reporting for Naperville News 17, I'm Blane Irwin.
And taxes are due this year by Monday, April 15th. After the successful first year of A Safer Naper, the Naperville Police Department is continuing the community campaign in 2019. The first topic of the year is Resolve to be Safer. Police officers will share what their resolutions are and give advice on being safer on the NPD's social media pages.
So some of the safer ones that we're going to talk about in our January one are resolving to be safer by buckling up for safety. We're going to talk about Lock It or Lose It. It's an ongoing campaign with the police department about locking your valuables up, locking your vehicle up, locking your home up to be a tougher target.
Along with social media posts, the NPD will host community presentations on the various monthly topics this year as well. Expect those to range from tax fraud and burglary prevention to domestic violence awareness and summer safety. The police department encourages the public to contact them with new ideas for Safer Naper topics and to use the hashtag #ASaferNaper on social media. After the break, we'll see how well those gym resolutions stick.
Find out who their person is, because they usually have a person, whether it's a friend's parent or a teacher, or even professional help if needed, because we all need a place to kind of let our hair down. And sometimes when you're a teenager, you do not want that to be your parents.
No.
No.
As cool as I think I am,
You
my
are pretty
kids
cool.
do not think that I am at all. Not at all. My husband is that person for my daughter when she's having whatever emotional exhaustion episode. He said that she reminds him of how he was when he was younger. So they share a lot of similarities. And so I'll even say, just go talk to her in your you way. Because, he can relate to her. And it's true, he will be able to get through to her.
It was a happy new year indeed at Edward Hospital. The arrival of William Paul Healy signaled Edward's first baby born in 2019. William was welcomed by his parents, Angela Antonou and Robert Healy, at 6:35 a.m. on January 1st. He weighed 8 pounds, 3 ounces, measured in at 20 inches, and is the Plainfield couple's first child. Congratulations to the new parents. Christkindl Market Naperville recently wrapped up its 3rd year in town. Naperville News 17's Blane Irwin shares how it went.
Christkindl Market Naperville brought delicious food, drinks, handcrafted gifts, and a whole lot of people to Naper Settlement this year.
Rough estimates right now are about 300,000 people. We haven't had a full chance to go through all of our numbers and visitor surveys and counts and everything, but I would say about 300,000 is what we're looking at.
And for its 3rd year, a special Naperville-inspired souvenir mug was on offer. And 5 new booths were added around the Christmas tree to connect with Rotary's Naper Lights show.
I thought was really great to be able to draw the crowds more towards the Naper Lights area to really experience everything they have to offer there.
The market is also meant to share German culture, having been based on the original Christmas market from Nuremberg. It's one of the only places to buy specialty goods made by craft vendors from Germany and other places in Europe, like honey-based German gifts or Russian nesting dolls. The traditional goods go well with the historical nature of Naper Settlement.
Naper Settlement is such a great location for this event. The grounds are great. It's a perfect location just outside of the downtown area. So, it's been awesome to really see this event grow and be accepted by the community and take on a life of its own.
For Naperville News 17, I'm Blane Irwin.
Christkindl Market Naperville will be back again this year, open as usual from the day after Thanksgiving until Christmas Eve. The weather continues to be too warm for outdoor ice skating. With more days in December being above freezing than below, The opening of Naperville's outdoor ice rinks, which is normally slated for December 15th, has been delayed. And it could be another 2 weeks or more before the rinks open. If it stays cold enough, the Park District is targeting the week of January 14th for opening. You can check the status of the Park District's winter sport facilities on their website. Getting in better shape is a popular New Year's resolution every year. Naperville News 17's Casey Krajewski gives us some facts on keeping fit.
Every new year, people resolve to finally get fit. They start new diets, try to be more active, and they join a gym.
Last year we had over 700 new members join our facility in January. So normally in a typical month we maybe add 100, 200 members a month.
Fort Hill is expecting a similar surge this year. Like many fitness centers, it offers January specials like a waived enrollment fee to take advantage of the resolution crowd.
So obviously people in January are always very motivated and we want to make it easy for them to join and have less excuses of why they don't want to join. So our way of doing that is getting rid of that enrollment fee for them.
But starting to exercise is just the first step. Many people lose momentum on their goals after only a few weeks.
So the thing that I see as the biggest issue is a lack of accountability, whether it's keeping your New Year's resolution to yourself and not telling anybody, so that way you don't have to own up to it. So tell as many people as you can.
Once you're taking fitness seriously, the last hurdle is making it a habit.
Whatever you can do is what you should do. Whether it's trying to squeeze in a half hour right before work, or you have an hour after work to get something in, but it is highly dependent on the person. There's no cookie cutter approach.
Getting the ball rolling on those fitness resolutions. For Naperville News 17, I'm Casey Krajewski.
One more tip, if you're just starting out on your fitness journey, make sure you're familiar with all the equipment before jumping into a new exercise. Coming up, a look back at some stories from last year that took us to new heights.
Sharing life over plates is Vi's motto. It's a simple philosophy, and it takes all the pressure off of you. For a starter, try their Neapolitan pizzas, baked to blistered perfection in a wood-fired oven. The mushroom carpaccio is worth a visit all by itself. But if you don't want to share one of the best dinners of your life, Vi's has you covered too, with entrees of wood-grilled fillets, paccheri bolognese, or roast wild salmon.
As we head into the new year, we take a look back at some of our favorite stories from 2018. Our own Casey Krajewski kicks us off with the story of Dance On.
Jimmy Long has been dancing since he was 7 years old. And as his talent has grown, so has his passion.
I want to be a professional dancer. I just don't know if I want to do like commercial dancing, which like doesn't require it in college, or if I want to do like concert dancing, which does require college.
Now 14, Jimmy dances at Midwest Edge Dance Academy, where he participates in hip-hop, jazz, and other dance styles. But that desire to dance was pulled into question when, after a performance by Midwest Edge at a local elementary school, some in the audience heckled him and the other male dancers.
Our understanding was that our dance troupe, who were performing at a local school event, unfortunately was on the receiving end of some heckling, which devolved into a few homophobic slurs that was directed at some of the male dancers.
Greg was inspired to create t-shirts with the hashtag #DanceOn to support the male dancers at Midwest Edge, figuring he could sell enough to make a small donation to the Dance Academy. He sold a few more than that.
At this point, we are at $12,000 raised, 10,000 social media hits, 300 different donations.
Instead of a donation to the school, The Longs have provided 4 different dancers with scholarships to Midwest Edge.
Dance On to me, from the age of 10 to the age of 18, I've dealt with closed-minded people. Growing up, I was the only boy at the studio, and now coming to Midwest Edge, there's so many boys, and it's just such a great environment. Boys and girls can dance together without any judgment.
The Dance On movement will continue to help boys who want to participate and work to remove the stigma around dancing. But in the meantime, Jimmy isn't worried about future heckling.
I know this is kind of cheesy, but like, don't listen to what other people say. Just like, do what you want to do, because you're probably not going to know them in a couple of years or like remember who they are. So just keep doing what you like to do, and if you get made fun of for that, then who cares?
Spinning a bad experience into an inspiring cause. For Naperville News 17, I'm Casey Krajewski.
Since the story first aired, the hashtag DanceOn campaign has raised over $25,000 for male dance initiatives. And Naperville News 17's Christine Lena's favorite moment of the year was when she got to be the sole passenger of a flight on a Lima Lima. Here's a look at her high-flying fun.
For most of Naperville, this is our view of the Millennium Carillon. But recently, I got a different perspective. It's a view that's not uncommon for pilot Mark Banovitz, but it can turn upside down from time to time when he's practicing with the Lima Lima flight team.
First time I rode with the team for a show, I thought that's the last time I'm doing that again. It was very uncomfortable to be that close in the air if you're not used to it. But eventually I got the bug, and I started to train and fly with them.
Known for their impressive flight maneuvers, the Lima Lima is the world's only 6-airplane civilian formation aerobatic team, and it started right here in Naperville at the Naper Aero Club.
The story really starts in the mid-1970s. A retired T-34 from the Civil Air Patrol was bought by some guys on the field here, and they started a club called Mentor Flyers. And Mentor Flyers was just a group of guys that owned a T-34. They painted it in Navy Pensacola colors. And from that airplane, more interest was developed on the field, and a couple other planes were purchased. And before you know it, guys were meeting up and flying in formation.
By the late 1980s and early 90s, the team gained recognition and had flown in multiple air shows around the country. As some founding members retired, other pilots like Banovitz jumped in. But that doesn't happen until every stunt is perfected.
Now, the question of when you're ready to fly with the team, the answer to that is when the guys you fly with are convinced you're not going to kill them. That's pretty much the answer. People have to develop a comfort level that you're going to be where you belong and that you're going to be reliable and disciplined.
It's that trust and camaraderie that make the Lima Lima something special for those involved. But what's even more special is the team's place in Naperville for the past 30 years.
The Lima Lima flight team is an important part of the heritage of Naperville, and obviously the pilots are spread around now, the airplanes are spread around. It's difficult for us to put together more than 3 or 4 airplanes for a show in the Midwest, but we still do get together, and we make a point to always fly over downtown Naperville if we have time, coming to or from a show, and to come do a smoke run over the field. And part of that is just kind of a salute to where Lima Lima got its start.
Start the turn. Reporting for Naperville News 17, I'm Christine Lena.
Naperville News' Blane Irwin went even higher in the skies for his favorite story, meeting up with the Naperville Astronomical Association for a look into the heavens. Here's his story.
2 small, white buildings sit tucked away near the DuPage River, one of which has a dome that might remind you of a night sky observatory. And that would be because this is one. It's the Glenn D. Riley Observatory, named for the Naperville science teacher who inspired kids to found the astronomy club that in 1973 would become the Naperville Astronomical Association.
What we have here is a 16-inch reflector, a very large reflector telescope that we use for public viewing.
The Dome Observatory and hand-built 16-inch telescope make up just one part of the Astronomy Education Center, the pride and joy of the NAA.
It's a deep sky objects is what we can see with this, nebula, star clusters, things like that. We also get very good views of planets for nights when maybe a little cloudy and that's all we can get is planets in it.
Our our objective is to bring astronomy to the people and not necessarily bring the people out to astronomy per se. So I think the facilities here in Naperville really help out with that.
The Astronomy Education Center has smaller, deployable telescopes at the ready, as well as 2 concrete triangles in the grass and a wooden deck to give stargazers level surfaces to set up their telescopes. There's a diagram on our solar system and a map of the Milky Way galaxy. The club even has a library on site with all sorts of astronomical books available to members. And there's this rolling roof building, the DuPage Valley Observatory, that houses another big telescope.
It is actually a giant camera. It's called an astrograph. It is got a 12.5-inch mirror and a mini camera on the front, so whatever light is collected by this telescope, it is sent by a camera back here to where we have a monitor and another one similar in the other building.
The club makes the Astronomy Education Center available to the public on fun nights known as star parties.
A star party is our way of sharing the night sky with the public, as we like to call anybody who's interested in coming. And we get to show them whatever's up at the time, whether that be planets, galaxies such as in the background here, star clusters, planetary nebula, all the visible things that you could see with astronomy.
And it's kind of stunning to be able to see something on the monitor through this apparatus that might be 100,000 times dimmer than what you can see with your eyes, or sometimes even darker than that.
Pointing Naperville's eyes to the night skies. For Naperville News 17, I'm Blane Irwin.
The Naperville Astronomical Association regularly holds 2 public observatory nights a month. Up next, just because it's winter doesn't mean high school sports is done playing outside. We'll head to the Winter Classic.
Naperville Crime Stoppers.
Yes, I'd like to report some suspicious activity in my neighborhood. How does this work?
Yes, thanks for calling. Your call is anonymous, and I will not ask for your name. Instead, you'll be identified by a tip number. In a few weeks, call back with the tip number you received, and I will let you know the status of your tip. If an arrest is made, you could receive a reward up to $1,000.
How do I get the reward money if you don't know who I am?
Well, when you call back, we set up a time and a place to drop the money. You will be safe, and nobody will know you gave Crime Stoppers a tip.
Okay, well, here's what's going on.
Welcome back into the Daily Grind. Hope you had a wonderful new year. While we were counting down to 2019, well, a few of our area hockey teams were taking their talents outdoors, and that is where we begin. Bobby Hull Community Ice Rink, Neuqua Valley, facing off against Oak Park River Forest. Game 2-2 in the second, but not for long, with Michael Viola finding Dakota Houlihan for a tie-breaking goal, 3-2 Wildcats. And while OPRF puts up a fight, Neuqua's goalie, Blake Butler, keeps the twine tidy as NV takes the win, 3-2 the final. Same place, different teams, Naperville North and Sandburg. After already being staked to a 1-0 lead thanks to a goal from Tyler Zuspan, Brett Martin lights the lamp. Huskies exit the first period already up 3-0. And from there, North never lets off the gas. Daniel Egbers puts the final touches on a 5-3 win, and Naperville North snaps a 4-game losing streak. First game of the new year for a new-look North Central women's basketball team, Cardinals hosting Carroll. Second quarter, and NCC trailing by 7, and Allie Pearson cuts that to 4 with a 3-pointer. She leads the way with 10 first-half points. Sierra Gruber and the Pioneers, simply too much down the stretch. The freshman with a game-high 20 to lead Carroll to a 72-67 win. Finally, we wrap up with a play that is making the rounds on social media, and I must warn you, it's a little jarring, especially for Blaze Meredith. North Central men's basketball team in Rock Island, and Meredith goes up for the block on Augustana's Krishan Orange, and he gets up so high, he not only blocks the shot, but gets clotheslined by the backboard. Believe it or not, Meredith would not just walk away, he would re-enter the game, though with a little more internet fame than he started the contest with. Cardinals ended up losing that one to the Vikings, 76-59. That is it for sports. Kim, back to you.
Thanks, Kevin. If you'd like to see more of Blaze Meredith and the Cardinals in action, you can find live streams on NCTV 17 and nctv17.com at 7 p.m. on January 5th and January 16th. Get your popcorn, candy, and pop because you'll want to head to the theater to check out tons of great movies coming our way. Our own Christine Lina tells us about what you'll want tickets for in 2019.
Blasting into theaters this year are tons of movies sure to break box office records and win some awards. Last year's Oscar winner writer-director Jordan Peele has a new horror thriller film titled Us that will be worth a watch this March.
Hi, can I help you?
Zora, put your shoes on.
Or if you're a fan of a true story, there are a few that will inspire many.
January 11th is one of this year's Oscar contenders, On the Basis of Sex, which stars Felicity Jones as Ruth Bader Ginsburg and shows the origins of Ruth Bader Ginsburg back before she was a judge.
The word woman does not appear even once in the U.S. Constitution.
Nor does the word freedom.
Another biography of note is Rocket Man, which tells Elton John's musical rise with a fantastical approach. And Disney will continue to adapt its classic animated films into live action this year. Dumbo flies this March, Aladdin enchants in May, and The Lion King roars in July. Other familiar characters to catch on the big screen are Hiccup and Toothless in How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World.
The hidden world, it really does exist.
And Pikachu in Pokemon Detective Pikachu.
And one person can understand what the Pokemon are saying, and he teams up with Pikachu, who's voiced by Ryan Reynolds, to solve some mysteries.
Two new superheroes will punch their way into theaters this year. For Marvel, it's Captain Marvel starring Brie Larson. And for DC, it's Shazam starring Zachary Levi.
This one looks to be a bit lighter than most of the DC movies, and it looks like it could be a good movie for the whole family.
But of course, the biggest superhero movie of the year and possibly all time is Avengers Endgame, coming this April.
This, of course, is the big finale to the story which began in Avengers Infinity War last year, and it sees the return of Iron Man, Thor, everyone else who you know and love from the Marvel Cinematic Universe in what looks like the epic conclusion to this 10-year story.
Films that will have you jumping into theater seats all year long. Reporting for Naperville News 17, I'm Christine Lina.
And that's what's happening right here in your neighborhood, Naperville. We'll see you next week. Until then, if you have a story you'd like to share, you can send us a tip at newstips@nctv17.com.
This week's Naperville News 17 is brought to you in part by the following sponsors. This program is partially funded by a grant from the City of Naperville.